Hey Peepsy Doodles. So today I want to tell you guys a story. Now this story comes from Reddit. I am like 100% new to Reddit and I still don't know how the whole thing works, but recently Kevin and I have been listening to / reading a lot of the no sleep stories from Reddit, which are usually scary in nature, hence Halloween and Samhain and it's witches season. So we've been doing a lot of like scary season type stuff. So last night we were on here, and I'm going to leave a link to this in the description because this is not my story, but it was the #1 story of all time in the no sleep subreddit. So last night we read it because I'm like, well, we read it, but I was like, it's #1 of all time. So let's see. And while it's scary in a way that really makes you think about life. And of course I shared it on Facebook, but nobody's gonna fucking read it because that's just human nature. Is somebody's like, I really want other people to read this, and then they don't. So I'm gonna read it to you because I think that the more people that can read this and understand hearing this story has literally changed my outlook on things. And I can already tell the difference in my attitude today after hearing this story last night. So let's commence. This story, it's not commence. Commence means it's over, but you know what I'm saying. Let's begin. So this story is called She Sold Happiness in Jars. And this is from the No Sleep subreddit, and it is posted by Flard. So like I said, I will put a link to the story in the description so that you know it is not mine. I am reading it from Reddit. So, she sold happiness in glass jars. The poster read, "Happiness sold in glass jars, called today," and underneath the text was a phone number. I was walking home from a long, exhausting day of work when I caught a glimpse of the paper stapled on an old telephone pole. I took a picture of it thinking it was amusing. I was going to show my wife once I got to our apartment, but I was caught up with chores and forgot about it. Dinner, dishes, laundry, packing a snack for our daughter, putting her to bed, putting her toys away that she left out in the living room. Every night, it was the exact same routine. The next day, I awoke sleeping back to back with my wife. I always had to get up earlier than she did for my job, so I quietly got ready for the day and headed out the door. At work, I was updating the company's latest expense report. My days were similar to this one. They were basically paying me to stare at a computer for 9 hours a day and input a couple of numbers into a spreadsheet. I finished my work very quickly, so I decided to head out of the office early. It also helped that it was Friday and a lot of people leave early at the end of the week. And when I walked back, I was thinking of what my life had become. I did this often. I always dreamed of traveling when I was younger. I wanted to drive across the country or solo backpack across Europe. Then I met Kelsey. Don't get me wrong, I loved Kelsey. I mean, I still do. We just don't have that spark anymore. When you meet someone, you get in a relationship, whether it's meant to be or not, some of your personal plans have to be put on hold. And then that relationship turns to marriage, and then you have a baby, then you have to enroll your daughter in preschool, then you have to get a better paying job and work more hours and blah, blah, blah. I was trying not to throw a pity party for myself. I'm just saying I wasn't exactly content with where I was in my life. I wouldn't have referred to myself as a happy person. As I took the same route home that I did every day to work and back, I walked by the same poster I had passed the day before. I don't know why, I really don't, but I decided to call the number. I figured it would be some joke. Maybe someone would pick up and say, "I love you," on the other end and hang up, or it's a line to a sex worker. I had no idea what to expect. I called. It only rang once before someone picked up. "Hello," a woman said. Hi, I'm calling about your poster, your ad." "Oh, awesome," she said calmly. "When do you want to pick it up?" "Pick what up?" "The jar," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Oh, of course." I realized then that I left work early without telling Kelsey, so I could just go pick it up and she'd be none the wiser. "What exactly is it that you're selling?" "I just told you. It's happiness in a glass jar, like the poster said. Happiness keeps best in glass jars. They're more durable than, say, a plastic bag." Okay. Should we meet somewhere?" "For sure. I don't want you to end up being a creep or something, so let's go to a public place." The public place we decided on was Starbucks parking lot a little over a mile from me. Now, I don't think I really was going to be buying a jar of happiness or whatever. I was 99% sure she was going to sell me drugs. Maybe heroin would be in the jar. I remember thinking, oh no, happiness is probably a nickname for some street drug and I'm going to a drug deal. What if she's a cop? Am I going to get arrested? But something inside told me to keep walking, and so I did. I stood outside and texted her. Me, I'm here. Her, cool, be there in a sec. Me, what are you driving? Her, silver Camry. As her final text came through, I saw her car pull in. She took a spot not too far from where I stood. I could see there was no one else in the car, which put my kidnapping fear to rest. She opened the door and stood on the pavement, looking around until her eyes met mine. I gave her a little nod of acknowledgement. She simply responded by waving her hand and gestured for me to come to her car, so I did. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with curly golden hair. Her skin was pale and contrasted with all the black stuff she was wearing. I thought she looked like Glinda the witch, the good witch from Wizard of Oz, and that she put on the Wicked Witch's clothes. Nice day out, she said as a greeting. Oh, yeah, it is. I hadn't really paid attention to it. You were the one that called about the jar, right? Yeah, that was me. Cool. Well, here you go. She handed me a very small glass mason jar. It couldn't have been more than 2 inches tall. Inside of it was a light. Not a light bulb, just light. It was like someone bottled up sunshine. It glowed even in the mid-afternoon daylight. It looked like a tiny sun, or a tiny universe existing in this little crystal-walled home. I was admiring it with no attempt to hide the awe on my face. Pretty rad, isn't it? What is it? You've asked that like 3 different times, I think. My answer is still the same. It's happiness. Happiness in a glass jar. Well, what do I do with it? Keep it, she said simply. If you have any problems, shoot me a text. She started to get into her car. Wait, I thought you were selling this. How much is it? Don't worry, man, she said with a smile. You'll pay. She closed her door and I stepped out of her way as she backed up, then drove off. What the hell had just happened? What was I holding? I looked down at the jar again. Its radiance was simply mesmerizing. I put it in my pocket and could see its glow slightly through my pants. I began to walk home. What was a nice, sunny day quickly changed into a rainy one with clouds wrapping the sky. It was not forecasted that it would rain, or else I would have ridden the bus or subway to work that day. I jogged home, trying to not get too drenched. I finally found shelter once I made it to my apartment building. I walked up to my door and found that my key wasn't on my key ring anymore. Shit, I can't believe I lost it again, I thought. I knocked on the door and said in a somewhat loud voice, Hey, babe, it's me. I don't know what happened to my key. I heard the door being unlocked from the other side. When the door opened, I was greeted by a large, heavy-set man with greasy hair and unkempt goatee and said, I think you got the wrong door, bud. Oh, I said, disoriented. My bad. Sorry. Have a good one. He let out a chuckle as he closed the door. Apartment number 33. I know that was my apartment. I know it was. I'd been in apartment 33 for 5 years now, but that was not my apartment. From what I could see inside, all the furniture was different. It was painted a different color. It was all wrong. I felt like I'd hit my head and was drugged. In the moment, nothing made sense. I pulled out my phone to call Kelsey so she could calm me down and tell me I just got confused for a second. But her contact wasn't in my phone. In fact, nothing was in my phone. I had no messages with her, no previous calls, pictures. It was like my phone reset to its factory settings. Did that girl somehow switch my phone out when I wasn't looking? I would have just dialed Kelsey's number manually, but I couldn't quite remember it. I had known it by heart before, but not anymore. I needed to get back to the office. I had all my contacts backed up on my work computer. Since it was still raining, I hopped on the bus, which had a stop right in front of the apartment complex. I rode downtown towards my office, the whole time staring at my wet shoes, wondering what the hell was going on. We have a keycard access to our building, so only authorized personnel can get inside. I always keep the access card in my wallet. Always. But surprise, surprise, it wasn't there. I buzzed into the speaker we had for guests with appointments or employees as a backup in case anyone got lost or forgot their card. Buzz. Hey, this is Tim. I must have lost my card. My employee number is... I stopped as I drew a blank. A voice came through the speaker. Tim, you got cut out. What's your employee number? I can't remember it. That's fine. Just give me your full name and department. Finance. I'm in finance. My full name is Tim Brooks. 1 second. About 30 seconds later, the man spoke to me again. We don't have a Tim Brooks working in this building. Do you have an appointment with someone? I backed up in surprise, almost tripping on my feet. I had just been in that office an hour or two ago. What was happening? I felt like I was getting Alzheimer's, but going through every stage in one day. I stared at my hands, unsure if I was even in the right body. I felt like the world around me was disintegrating. I wasn't in control. I was merely sitting inside somebody else's head, watching the world through their eyes. Just then I got a text. I recognized the number immediately. It was that girl, the one who gave me the jar. I had forgotten all about it until I saw her text. Her, "Hey, how's it going?" I looked at my phone dumbfounded. It made me angry. She was so nonchalant about this. She knew what was going on. She had done this to me. Me, "What the hell did you do to me?" Her, "The worst is yet to come." I was astronomically close to just chucking my phone as far as I could in frustration. I took the jar out of my pocket. It looked unchanged, still glowing just as bright. "What the fuck did you do?" I yelled at the jar, realizing I probably looked like a lunatic. As I stared at its glistening glass, I realized something. I didn't know what my wife's face looked like anymore. I knew her name. Well, I knew it started with a K, or maybe a C. I couldn't picture her in my mind. I knew I had a wife. I knew I did, because I had a daughter. I had a wife and a daughter. I couldn't remember their faces then, or their names, or their birthdays, or any memories I had with them. I know they existed. They did exist. I had just seen them that morning, right? I couldn't remember how she looked or what she smelled like. What was our first date? We had a wedding, right? What about our first kiss, or my daughter? Or was it my son? Maybe I didn't even have a kid. But my wife, or girlfriend, she was real. I knew she was. And the thought was tearing me apart. I couldn't see her in my head. I couldn't recall a single fact about her. I was standing outside of the same building, but I was unsure why I was. Did I work there? I must work somewhere. The rain was accompanied by a chilly wind now. It was whipping at my face, making my nose and cheeks sting. I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to be warm. I wanted to go into a shitty office job that kept a roof over my head. I wanted it all. I was soaking wet. I was miserable. I couldn't remember my parents or my childhood. Did I have any friends? Why was I in the rain? I looked down at my hand. I was still clutching the jar. The only memory I have of my entire life I could concretely remember was that girl giving it to me, telling me it was happiness. I didn't bring happiness. It brought pain and suffering. I was more miserable in that moment than I ever had been. My phone buzzed. Break the jar, Tim. I looked at my other hand with the setting sun and the rainy sky. I swear the jar glowed brighter than any street light near me. I didn't break it because I was following her instruction. I broke it because I was angry. I broke it because I was upset. I needed a release. I raised my arm above my head and I brought it down with one swift motion, shattering the jar on the concrete beneath my feet. That dark, chilly air accompanying the rain spread away like it was the shockwave of a bomb going off, and I was at the epicenter. I saw the warm, yellow light from inside the jar spread rapidly across the ground and ascend into the sky. It was as if I was watching the beginnings of the universe being created, like God had just snapped his fingers and said, "Let there be light." I was engulfed in it. I could no longer see the street, or rain, or anything dark. I felt like I was plummeting into a star going faster than the speed of light. I felt like sitting in front of a fire on a cold winter's night, but that warmth was covering every inch of my body. And then I blinked. Immediately I could feel the sheets beneath me and my back barely touching my wife's. I was staring out the window. The morning light drenched through the glass and gleamed on my face. I stood from bed and grabbed my phone. It was Friday morning. I had one text. "Let me know if you ever need another jar," with a smiley face. I called in sick to work. I snuck into my daughter's room and greeted her with a kiss and told her she didn't have to go to preschool today. We were going to have a family day. She smiled and stretched out with her arms and with a yawn before curling up and falling back asleep. I got back in bed and squeezed my wife tightly, and I didn't let go for hours. Our daughter came into our room and woke us up eventually. She was jumping on the bed and shouting for us to wake up. Yesterday, I may have found that annoying. Yesterday, I may have found a lot of things annoying, monotonous, or dull, but not today. Today, I pulled her under the covers in between me and Kelsey. Today was going to be a good day. Today, I was happy. Last night, I couldn't read those last two paragraphs because I was sobbing, so I made Kevin finish the story. I feel like it really doesn't need much explanation, but what I do feel like is every single person Every single person needs to hear that story. It needs to be reminded that just because you have a could have been doesn't mean that what you're living right now isn't your happiness. Because if you think of all the things that you have right now, and if all of those things were gone, if you knew that they existed and then all of a sudden they were gone, they were taken from you, but on the other hand, you had the life to go do whatever you wanted, is that what you really want? We really need to start paying attention to what we do have. And we hear that all the time. We hear that all the time as the moral of the story. We hear it on Facebook. It's on memes. It's in everywhere. It's like, no, really appreciate what you have. But really, I feel like this story drives it home. Really appreciate what you have. And this story really hit home with me because everything in it is exactly what I have. I have my husband, I have my preschool daughter. You know, there's mornings where she comes in and she jumps on the bed and begs us to wake up. And I don't want to wake up. I'm not ready to wake up. And this morning she came in and she jumped on my bed and she told me, Mom, it's time to get up. And I pulled her in bed and I turned on the TV and we snuggled and watched cartoons. And you know, there were times this morning where I really wanted to get frustrated, and I thought to myself, why? Over what? What are you getting frustrated over? And I didn't, and we had a really good morning. And today she's supposed to go to preschool, but she has a cold, and I'm keeping her home because I could have 5 hours to myself today. You know, I was supposed to send her to preschool, and then my mom was going to pick her up, and I was going to be by myself enjoying whatever I want to do from noon to 5. Then I'm not going to do that. She's in taking a nap right now. I wanted to tell you guys this story. I'm going to go read some of my book, and then I'm going to enjoy my daughter for the rest of the day. Because God forbid, one day you wake up and you don't have all of the things that you have right now. So please enjoy them. And remember why you have all of the things that you have. Remember the happiness that you had when you first got those things, when you first got in that relationship, when you first had, you know, your son or your daughter or your multiple children. Remember what it was like to, you know, first step foot into your first home instead of looking at the bills that are racking up over your house. You know, just be fucking happy. We can't be happy all the time. But try to remember some of that on days when you're not. Have a good day, guys.